The Friday the 13th franchise has been in limbo for some time now, mostly due to the lengthy legal battle over the property's rights. It's hard to imagine, but it's been 15 years since a new Friday the 13th project has been released. And this has a lot of people asking, when will we see Jason Voorhees hacking up teenagers again, if ever? If I'm being honest, from my perspective, this whole rights issue has been a blessing in disguise. If you consider the lengthy list of legacy horror projects that have come out recently and failed to impress. But when A24 recently got involved with a series based on the iconic slasher, a lot of people felt like the property would be in good hands. Well, if the recent news stories about this project are any indication, things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
So over the last couple of days, we've had conflicting reports over the current state of the upcoming prequel series, Crystal Lake. The Insider reported just a couple of days ago that A24 has reportedly stopped development on the project. Then a day later, Bloody Disgusting reported that A24 has not pulled the plug on the series at this time. And then just today, Discussing Film said that Hannibal creator Brian Fuller has confirmed that he is no longer working on the project, saying, quote, "For reasons beyond our control, A24 has elected to go in a different way with the material." Now there's a couple of things to consider here. When reports are kind of all over the place like this, it could be a sign that production is such a mess that mixed signals are being sent about its future. And the fact that one of the creatives just left the project over creative differences would reinforce that. A24 has always been hit or miss for me, but one thing I always gave them credit for is their willingness to commit to original horror ideas. They have been one of the few shining beacons of hope, guiding us through this sea of unoriginality. So I have to ask the question, why would A24 even want to do a Friday the 13th series anyway? It doesn't seem to fit in their wheelhouse. Now I know that they're trying to expand into non-horror territory, and they've been somewhat successful with that already with movies like The Iron Claw. But them venturing into an 80s horror slasher franchise is a bit of a head scratcher.
I don't get it.
I've joked on more than one occasion about the possibility of A24 giving us an elevated Jason, given their track record. Meaning that the franchise would shy away from its more exploitation roots and venture into more serious territory, where we do this deep character study analyzing the mind of one Jason Voorhees, or his mother perhaps. And this would make a lot of sense considering the project they are working on is a prequel to the original films. While I do enjoy a great character study, I think in this situation they have to know their audience. Here's a question: did it help to improve the character of Michael Myers when Rob Zombie decided to give him a backstory? Sure, it might make for a somewhat interesting one-off, but Michael Myers' whole appeal initially is the somewhat ambiguous circumstances around why exactly he decided to start killing people. The fact that we initially didn't really know why he was the way he was is what made him scarier. Expanding on his origins only took away from his mystique.
Big mistake.
Now, to be fair, we already know the general circumstances around Jason's origins, and we even have a general motive as to why he kills people. And I would argue that that's all the character really needs. Do we really need a full series exploring the events leading up to little Jason Voorhees drowning in a lake? Not really. Is there a possible interesting story to be told there? Maybe, but it sounds like A24 and company are having a difficult time coming to a consensus about what that story should be and how that story should be told. And did we ever stop and think that maybe that's because this story wasn't meant to be expanded on? Did we ever stop and think that Jason is very much a product of the 80s and he's not really meant to be updated?
Let the past die. kill it if you have to.
This has been an ongoing problem with these legacy horror sequels for a while now. The whole goal is to restore these properties to their former glory and to modernize them for today's audiences. But most of them clearly were not meant to be modernized. Some things are just better left in the past. And I would think that a company like A24 would understand that, given their success with bringing more unique stories to life. It feels like to me Hollywood is getting anxious because they've ran through all the other iconic slashers, and characters like Jason and Freddy have just been sitting there unscathed for some time now. And they look at those two characters as the last two opportunities to capitalize on iconic slashers from the past. Unlike some, I'm not really clamoring for a new Friday the 13th or a prequel series for that matter. Mostly because I would prefer if Jason remained safe from being exploited like all of his fellow slashers have.
Leave him alone! Let him go! Let him go!
Are there still stories to be told in the Friday the 13th franchise? Possibly. And I'm sure some brilliant mind will crack the code someday and tell that story. But right now does not feel like the right time because Hollywood is not in the best space creatively. My best advice would be to continue to let Jason rest and not try to force something into existence just because you can.
Jason, Mother is talking to you. That's my boy. Come. That's my good boy.
Y'all be cool. Right on.